Hey there, this is Natalie, and welcome to another dive into interesting stories from Reddit. If you like this type of video, please subscribe to the channel for more, and consider taking a look at some of the other videos you can find here. This is a fairly new channel, and I really want to get it monetized. So anytime you spend listening to these wild Reddit stories really helps me out. Now, let's get started. So this is an interesting story which was originally posted to r/relationships by user friendhelp219. And it's entitled, My 28 female friend 26 female pretends she is Japanese and is alienating everyone around her. And it begins, Hello all and happy holidays. My friend Kara has been obsessed with Japan and Japanese culture since we were in high school. She used to buy loads of candy from the local Asian corner stores and would watch lots of anime. Our friend group was very diverse, and so no one thought too much of it. I just thought of it as a typical teenage phase, like being emo or goth. As we got older, however, Kara's behaviour changed dramatically. She began to hang out with completely different people and reinvented herself to them. She started to tell people she was half Japanese and that her real dad lived in Japan. She said her Caucasian father here was actually her stepdad and that her mom made him refer to her as her father because she wanted to erase any memory of Kara's real father. She majored in Japanese language in college. This was to prepare for moving back to Japan, according to her. She'd also begun to dye her hair black for years, insisting it was her natural colour to anyone who met her, and wearing brown/black lenses. She has also legally changed her name to sound more Japanese. She broke off contact with most friends who knew her from early on, and thus knew her and her family well. The few friends who she kept around eventually began to leave on their own because of her compulsive lying. We were at a party recently with some of her new friends. When she was in another room, I overheard them talking about their recent trip to Japan with her. They were saying she was so embarrassing, and they felt awkward when she pointed out places that she said she'd gone to as a child. It seems they're just hanging out with her for a laugh. Kara is an only child and very spoiled. She's used to getting her way and is prone to tantrums. I don't think I necessarily want to remain her friend, but I don't want her to continue down this path. I tried to talk to her about her lying, but she freaked out on me. She said I was crazy, and that she really is half Japanese, and that I've always been jealous of her because she looks exotic. She does not. She is plain-faced, dirty blonde, and overweight. She recently broke up with her boyfriend because he got too close to the truth about her. He tried to have dinner with her parents, and Kara freaked out and told him he had no right to go behind her back. She actually went so far as to push him into a wall and yell at him. She's been trying to tell everyone they broke up because he was talking to another girl, which is BS. Source, I was there, along with our friend Alex, in the basement when they were arguing. Her parents have no clue about her behaviour. She's careful to keep her friends away from family. She told them she studied Japanese because she wants to be a translator. I'm considering perhaps writing them a letter, because I am sincerely concerned for Kara. I think she needs therapy and needs to face her lying. Any advice on how to handle this? TLDR, 100% Caucasian friend pretends she's part Japanese, compulsively lies to keep up the story, alienating her friends, and I think she needs help. Wow, and this woman is 26 years old. This is definitely taking the anime thing too far. And she is much too old for this to just be passed off as a little bit of cringe while she's growing up. I mean, I can understand if someone's just so unhappy with their own reality and their life that they want to make up this whole new backstory to tell new people. But if you were going to do that, you'd at least sort of move to another country where nobody knows you and do it, away from your family who you're lying about. And even then, it doesn't sound like she's had like a hard life or anything, where it seems that she's, living with her parents who still spoil her at the age of 26. This sort of behaviour is normally the kind of thing you see from like 13, 14-year-old K-pop stans who want to become Korean. And they've got those like subliminal recordings that they listen to that are supposed to change the shape of your eyes and stuff like that. Only she's doing it with Japan and the animes and stuff, and I feel a bit personally attacked, you know, as somebody with an anime channel who does attempt to try and speak Japanese sometimes. So I feel like people like this Kara are giving us more grounded weeaboos a bad name. And those of you who've come over to this channel from being viewers of my anime channel may also be feeling the same. It doesn't seem like she has a kind of mental illness where she's deluded and actually believes the stories that she's made up are true, because she is going out of her way to stop people like her boyfriend from finding out, and her parents haven't been able to pick up on anything to do with this. So I assume it's okay to laugh at her. Though with these Reddit stories, you never know, it might turn up in the updates that she just has a brain tumour or carbon monoxide poisoning. There are quite a few stories where that actually turns out to be the reason for someone's crazy behaviour, and then you feel bad about laughing at them. But I am reading this one live and there are updates, so let's find out more. The first update says, "Thank you to everyone who replied, inboxed me and gave their input on my original post. I especially appreciate those of you who gave me solid tips on how to bring it up with her parents. So it's been Christmas holidays now and I hadn't had much time to do anything because of family events. However, yesterday I finally was able to get a break. I decided to talk to Kara's parents in person. Since they live relatively close, it wasn't an issue. Kara was away for the weekend on a ski/cabin trip, and I knew she wouldn't be back until later Sunday evening. It provided a great opportunity to talk to her parents calmly and without an interruption from her. I basically did what many of you suggested. I took examples from social media. I took conversations that were held on Facebook. I showed them her blog entries where she'd gone on long tangents about being Japanese and reuniting with her real father in Japan. It was a very long conversation. I told them all about the high school years and what happened in the time afterwards. I told them about her lying about her parents, about keeping her parents and friends separate, about her plan to go live in Japan, about just about everything I could think of. They let me speak, and they were actually very good about it. Her father was understandably very hurt and heartbroken that his daughter would deny him like that, and her mother was furious. They both talked to me about Kara and her home life, how she's usually in her room and never really mentioned any of this Japanophilia to them. We discussed what to do about the situation. Everyone agreed Kara needs therapy and needs to come to terms with the reality of her heritage. Her parents believe that she's delusional and could benefit from seeing a professional. They said they were going to confront her that evening. So it's been a day now and I haven't heard anything yet, but I will update as soon as I hear from them. They both promised to call me and update about the situation, and they thanked me for telling them and being a concerned friend. I'll post another update with the aftermath. As of now, Kara has deleted her Facebook, but not yet messaged me. I don't know if they actually told her who exposed her, but it will probably come back to me. TLDR, told her parents, now we wait. And in the comments to this one, numerous commenters tell OP she did the right thing, and she replies, I was torn up between it being my place or not. I know she's legally an adult and it's her life, and it's not like she's shooting up heroin, but still. And then there is a final update. It says, Happy New Year to everyone and many, many thanks for all your feedback and advice throughout this whole ordeal. I appreciate all the people who reassured me about doing the right thing by telling Kara's parents, as it has been something that's kept me quite torn this last week. You guys were an amazing source of support in a tough situation. I never expected this to get more than a few comments, and the sheer amount of feedback has just been shocking. Again, thank you all. One thing I'd like to expand on. A few people have wondered how Kara's parents were oblivious to her behaviour. As far as Facebook goes, Kara had two. She had her parents on a normal Facebook that had a small friends list of relatives and a few distant people from high school. Her main Facebook had her Japanese name, which she never mentioned to them she had changed, and her main group of friends. Secondly, her interactions with her parents were short. She kept to herself and stays in her room, often when she's at home. She told them she wanted to broaden her horizons and told them working as a translator would provide a great opportunity for that. They have paid for her trips to Japan under the impression that she was going there to scope out the work scene and to make connections. She was careful to keep her home and social lives very separate, and her parents never really had a reason to question their daughter about it. So, this is what went down after my previous update. After the talk with Kara's parents, I went home and fully expected her to call, message, or even show up at my door. She never did, but she removed her Facebook profile, which had her Japanese name, and a lot of information that supported her fake persona. She also deleted her Tumblr, which also followed the same vein as her Facebook. Everything was quiet for a good 2 days, and I chalked it up to her being embarrassed about the situation and not wanting to talk to anyone about it. Her mom called me yesterday to wish me a happy new year and to let me know what was going on. Basically, this is what happened. Kara got home from her ski trip and her parents were waiting in the living room with printouts from her blog, Facebook, etc. They confronted her immediately about the profiles and the information posted on there. She tried to tell them that it was for her career in Japan and that the Japanese would be more likely to hire someone with Japanese heritage. They didn't buy it and she flipped out. She began to demand to know who showed them her blog/Facebook. Now her mom said they didn't tell her, but I'm guessing they probably did because she knows it's me. It's okay, I sort of expected them to tell her since they are her parents. Anyway, she'd begun to cry by this point and it was hard to get any answers out of her. Her parents basically laid out everything I'd shown them and told them, especially the part about her dad being her stepdad. They told her they could forgive some eccentric behaviour, but not full-on disrespect of her parents, nor the needless lying that was going on. They told her she had 2 options: come down to reality or leave. She has no job and lives at home for free. Everything is funded by her parents, including expensive trips to Japan. She chose to stay. One of the conditions was that she had to remove social media accounts that continued to tie her to the lies. So her Japanese Facebook was removed and her Tumblr as well. She also had to agree to therapy. Her mom told me they were in the process of finding someone to see her, preferably every week, so they could get to the root of the problem and begin to break the cycle of consistent lying. They're keeping an eye on her now, mostly because they're afraid she'll lash out or do something rash. But honestly, I think she isn't going to do anything. She's most likely really embarrassed that she was outed and just wants everyone to forget it. I don't know how she's going to manage it because she's going to have to either tell all her current friends the truth or ditch them altogether. So I wished her mom the best and we hung up. I thought that was that, but a few hours later, I got a call from an unknown number. I pick up and it's her. She told me she hated me and she couldn't believe I'd do this to her. She called me a whole book of names and said she hoped someone would ruin my life as much as I'd ruined hers. Then she told me to never contact her again and to keep her name out of my mouth. I just said okay and hung up. I knew our friendship was at an end before all of this, but I can't pretend it wasn't uncomfortable to hear how bitter and angry she was towards me. So that's it. I guess I got what I wanted out of the situation, which was for her to be faced with reality. I can only hope that therapy will help her to reconnect with her real life and to figure out what's going on underneath that whole web of lies she spun for herself. Yes, it sucks that things had to end how they did, but I don't regret telling her parents and potentially saving her from colossally screwing up her life. Again, thank you to everyone who's offered their support and advice. I didn't have anyone solid to talk to about this issue, and if it hadn't been for the encouragement of many people on here, I probably would have just backed out. I hope 2015 brings you all great things. TLDR, her parents confronted her about the lying and gave her an ultimatum. She chose to continue living at home and had to remove the offending online accounts as well as agree to therapy. She called me to tell me she hates me and she never wants to speak to me again. And there are some relevant comments to this one. The first one says, You would think that she would realise that people actually from Japan would know that she's lying about her heritage when she's applying for jobs and they meet her. OP replies, "Yeah, exactly. One of the people she went to Japan with was in fact Japanese. They were one of the ones who I mentioned in my original post who said she was embarrassing." And in response to another comment that was telling her she should have minded her own business, OP says, "I usually do, but this was something that was getting out of control very quickly. For years I'd minded my own business when it came to her, and it didn't help. She didn't realise anything on her own, and surrounded herself with the wrong people who just hung out with her to make fun of her. It was time to break the cycle. Yeah, it's probably a very uncomfortable situation for her right now." Well, that was a very weird story, wasn't it? I do think OP did the right thing by talking to her parents about it. Normally I would think that you should generally not be going to people's parents about things when they're, already well into being an adult. But in this case where she was lying about her parents themselves, it is something that you would think they'd want to be aware of. And the fact that, she was able to keep up these lies while still living with them meant that she was obviously doing a lot of things that were kind of deceptive towards her family. I think if somebody wants to just make up some crazy backstory and, other people don't believe it or make fun of them, that's their lookout. But I can see why OP was concerned for her if all of the people she's hanging around with are just friends with her because it's funny to watch her try and pull off this fake persona. And they're just laughing at how cringe she is, with her being completely unaware that that's why they're friends with her. That's got to be pretty sad to watch when it's somebody you've known for a long time. And talking to her parents was probably the only thing that could force any kind of change. Even just in terms of getting her to go to therapy or something. So I do think she did the right thing, or at least the kindest thing. She'd already accepted that the friendship was going to be over if she did this. She'd said right from the start that she didn't necessarily even want to remain friends with Kara because of her weird, embarrassing behaviour. But I can also see why some of the commenters were more on the side of, you should have minded your own business and let her crack on with it. I think she did, the caring, considerate thing that would ultimately end up helping Kara more. But it was kind of at the cost of her privacy, which, if someone's acting like they have the mentality of a teenager, they probably do. And for someone who feels like a teenager, going to the parents and showing them things like their blog and stuff like that they've tried to keep private from their family, exposing their weird Delulu fantasies and all of that, it's going to feel like a big violation. And I can also see that, where you're in a situation where you see what the best thing to do to help someone is, but it does come at that kind of cost, you may choose to mind your own business and let them exercise their freedom to do what they want. After all, she is an adult, at least, notionally. And what she's doing isn't, physically harmful to herself. I can really see all sides of this. I'd like to say that if I was in this situation, I would come to a good conclusion about what to do. But if I'm entirely honest, I'm no saint. I'd probably be more like the friends who are sort of hanging out with her just because they find it funny. And so I have to ask you, my lovely viewers, who I am sure are much better people than me and wouldn't just laugh at her, what you would do if you were in OP's situation. Let me know down in the comments. Now, time for a wholesome story, which I hope will make you feel all nice, cozy, and uplifted right now. Especially if you've just been listening to some of the other stories on my channel, which are not quite so happy. Now, this one's entitled, I, 27 male, met one of my closest friends, 28 female, about 2 years ago at the library, and I am completely in love with her. The only issue is, I'm afraid she's going to think I'm shallow when I finally ask her out, because she used to be chubby. How do I tell her how I feel without offending her? Which is quite a long title for a post, but there we go. Now this is a concluded story with updates, so let's get started with the first post. Throwaway, as she is an active Redditor and I really don't want her to find this, but I could use some outside advice. Realised this is super long, so there's a TLDR at the bottom. For context, when we met, I was in a toxic relationship with my now ex. She was focusing on school, working and getting in shape, so I never really saw her romantically due to these factors, but I've always thought she was a beautiful person and a joy to be around. I'll call her Kelsey. I've told her things I wouldn't dream of telling my ex, talked for hours about anything, played board games, watched movies, went to restaurants, invited her to my book club, and just included her in almost every aspect of my life, as she did the same for me, but we were rarely alone together. Nothing intimate besides hugs and jokes with friends, so I never really thought of her like that. I finally had enough of the years-long verbal abuse, threatening to harm herself and mind games with my ex, when I started to realise I was spending more time with Kelsey and would sometimes forget about my own girlfriend, as Kelsey made me happy and ex filled me with dread. It was roughly 7 months ago when I broke up with her. Kelsey 2 years ago was a bit chubby and she was working really hard to get it off, so I was super supportive of her and gave her fitness and nutrition tips. She's gone from 195 to 130, but her heaviest was apparently 260, and you can not even tell she was once that size. I'm so proud of her, and ever since the breakup, she's all I can think about, and we've been spending some time alone now. Her lips, the way she laughs, her smile, her eyes, and yes, her body is incredible. The fact she put in the work to lose the weight and is disciplined to keep it off while working and going to school makes her even sexier to me. She's always been there without me even asking. She would just know if I needed her support in some way, and I would always find a way to let her know I truly appreciated her. I had a feeling she felt the same about me, but I let a bunch of insecurities. I'm freakishly tall, been called boring, told I talk too much, hate my chin, etc. stop me from telling her how I felt. A few weeks ago, we were all at a taco joint with friends, stuffing our faces and having a great time, until a guy approached her and offered to buy her a drink. My heart sank and I immediately wanted to tell him off. She's not interested, but I was able to fight it off as I knew it was irrational and I had no right. She sweetly agreed, and with some encouragement from the girls at the table, followed him to the bar and they started chatting. I'd never been so angry, sad and guilty at the same time about a woman. The time I've known her, she's been single except for a few dates that ended up wanting to just be casual, which really hurt her as she doesn't hook up and hasn't been intimate with anyone for a few years, since she was focusing on herself. Guys and girls hit on her all the time, and it's always made me irrationally upset, even before I realised I loved her, because they didn't know her. So I should have been happy that she was talking to this guy and seemingly enjoying herself. She was giggling, smiling, sharing nachos with him. I was unbelievably bummed, so I started to head out as I didn't want to watch her flirt with this guy and cause a scene. When I got home, I saw she sent me a good night text saying, "Hope I feel better." Friends told her I wasn't feeling so hot. She was worried as I'd been kind of off, and let her know if I needed someone to talk to. I fell in love again. I decided I was going to tell her how I felt, as it wasn't fair to her and it was unhealthy keeping it since I can barely form sentences around her now. I asked one of the girls if she had an idea that Kelsey might have a crush on me after explaining why I want to know. She confessed that she did indeed. Yes, but apparently Kelsey told her that she didn't think I'd ever date her because she used to be fat. She's not in my league, and I probably only saw her as another sister. I was devastated I gave her that impression and almost didn't believe, but it all makes sense as to why she would think that. I've never made any kind of move on her, and I myself am a pretty fit guy, plus my ex was super skinny. I'm so afraid to make a move now that she's lost so much weight that she's going to think I only like her because she's not fat anymore and my feelings are surface level. She means so much to me and I don't want to frick this up. Most of my friends are saying she's going to understand and not take it personally because she knows me. Some said she's going to think I just want to bang her now that she's hot. My sisters think I should tread lightly, as she could feel like a rebound. How to approach this without coming off as shallow and potentially losing her or her respect? Thank you. Sorry this was crazy long, guys. I'm stressed. TLDR, I'm in love with my best friend that used to be chubby, but I don't want her to think I only like her now that she isn't chubby. And in the comments, Careless Welder 4048 said, "Dude, her friend told you she's interested. Shoot your shot." For Extension says, "You're overthinking this. Just do it." Davio Two Shoes says, "Ask her out. Go from there. When it's an appropriate time, show her this post. It's time dated, so it proves your intentions and your concerns. That's assuming you sense any need to share this. The idea might never occur to her. If not, don't plant the idea by sharing." An OP replied to that one saying, "I really need to just pull my head out of my butt. This would be absolutely mortifying, but it would show I was serious about her. I might omit some stuff. Haha." And yeah, I think he's probably just nervous about, confessing his feelings to her, even though he knows from the friend that she's more than likely going to be happy if he asks her out. And he knows he has to say something at this point because of the way he reacted when she was flirting with another guy in the bar. He knows that if he doesn't do something soon, then he's going to miss his opportunity. Because even if she didn't, plan to see that guy again, it shows she is now amenable to, putting herself out there when it comes to dating. So it will only be a matter of time before somebody comes along who she is interested in. I think he's feeling the combination of nerves about confessing those kind of feelings to someone you've been friends with for a long time, which is always going to be difficult, considering it can have an impact on the friendship, whether things go well or badly in the moment, or longer term with the relationship. I think worrying about the weight thing and whether or not she'll see that as shallow might just be his nerves manifesting. I mean, even if she does think that he's only romantically attracted to her since she lost weight, which it sounds like isn't the case, that's not to say she's going to think badly of him because of that. She might see it as another positive to the hard work that she did to look the way she does now. Something she obviously put a lot of dedication into and is probably very proud of herself for. She may see it as, well, the guy I liked likes me back now. The hard work has paid off in even more ways. Yes, that might not be the best way to think about things, but it is the kind of thought that someone in that position might have, rather than thinking negatively and thinking he's a shallow person who only likes skinny girls and doesn't care about her personality. And she must know that he does because they've had this close friendship for so long. So I really don't think that she's going to have any problems in that field. But we do have an update so we can find out exactly how she did react. And this update came a week after the original post. And he says, "Guys, holy hell, I didn't expect this to blow up the way it did whatsoever. It's even on TikTok. And I'm currently even more mortified, but it's so worth it. I'll also be answering some comments to clear up some things. TLDR at the bottom." After coming back to make these comments and messages over and over, I realised I was severely overthinking everything, making things way harder than they needed to be, and came to the conclusion that I didn't need to bring up such a sensitive topic in the first place, just to tell her how I feel, especially since she didn't confess that to me directly. I just needed to tell her, and quick. The rest would follow. I texted her the next morning asking if we could grab a bite, just us two, sometime that coming weekend. I had something important to tell her, and that I missed her, which was true. I stupidly ended up worrying her with the way I worded this. She thought I was moving. However, she was excited and told me she missed me too. She was free that night if I was down, and the day after next. I very much started to panic as it was sooner than anticipated, but that night really was the best time. I was still too embarrassed to show her the previous post in its entirety, but I was willing to do so if she doubted my intentions. To keep this brief, I'll spare the mushy details, but we met at her favourite tea shop, caught up for a while, then she actually outright asked me what I needed to tell her. It took me a bit to articulate everything since I was actively trying not to stutter like a dweeb, but I told her most of what I originally posted. I've had feelings for her even before the breakup and just didn't know how to tell her for so many reasons. I told her the important ones, but that she's always on my mind. I've always loved how kind, caring, thoughtful, dedicated, and just all-round amazing, on top of being so beautiful. She made me realise sacrificing my happiness to keep someone that hates me alive was unhealthy, that I deserved to be happy, and I was happiest with her. No one brightened my day like she did. She looked preciously stunned for a moment after I was done, and was tearing up a bit at this point, but proceeded to tell me she's felt the same since we met, and had a tiny feeling I liked her. However, she didn't think I'd be interested in dating her since we were such close friends. Plus, the toll my ex put on me meant I probably needed some time to recover. But she was so happy I actually had the guts to tell her how I felt, as she was never going to tell me. So we both kinda awkwardly laughed for a bit. We talked for a while more and I was so overjoyed, relieved, and super nervous, as the mood immediately shifted to something newly intimate. But I did end up asking to take her out on a real date whenever she was ready, as I did just lay a lot on her. Long story short, a lot has happened since then. She's now currently my girlfriend. We're taking things super slow. Our second date is in a few days, and I'm kicking myself for not telling her sooner. She hasn't mentioned her weight at all, and I will be 100% showing her the post if she ever does. So now I'm really glad I didn't start off with that. I'm so thankful for each and every one of you for your feedback, encouragement, support, and I couldn't have done it without you guys. Serious rock stars over here. TLDR, I didn't bring up her weight when I told her my feelings. She's now my girlfriend. She's not brought up the topic, and if she ever does, I'll be showing her the previous post. And in the comments, Pithy username here says, "That's a great update on which to quit Reddit for the day. Congratulations and good luck." Nobody Important says, "Congratulations, man. Be there for her and treat her well, and always be there to listen and support her during inevitable downtimes." So that's a nice, wholesome story for today. Let me know your thoughts on it down below. That's all for this video, but look out for more coming very soon. Have a great rest of your day or evening out there, and I'll see you next time.